Good day, everybody. This is Chris, the Ancient Scholar. Hope this video finds you all doing well. So in this particular video, I'm going to talk a little bit about Apple and my reaction to the newly announced MacBook. This was announced yesterday morning. This is they're calling it the MacBook Neo. Kind of an interesting name, and certainly a very different naming nomenclature than what Apple has traditionally used, and this seems to suggest a very different kind of direction for Apple, at least in some aspects. And so I want to just kind of talk a little bit about the Neo. And unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot to add that hasn't already been added by all of the usual content creators that cover this stuff. So my overall thoughts on this particular device are pretty positive. I think it's going to be incredibly popular. It does, I think, stand a good chance of really disrupting the education market, and that's one of the reasons that I'm actually making this video is because I am an educator. I really do see this as a potentially disruptive force in education. I would say one of maybe the most dominant kind of platform for a lot of the tasks that not only educators but students are involved in traditionally has been the Chromebook, which is a very cheap platform that is highly optimized to run Chrome, Google Chrome, and all the cloud-based stuff surrounding that. And they have been highly successful, particularly in the classroom, where a lot of what you're doing is interfacing between online learning management systems like Canvas and others, where you don't need a whole lot of RAM, you don't need an incredibly powerful processor, and you don't even need a whole lot of ROM, a whole lot of long-term memory, because everything, a lot of what's going on is cloud-based. It's online. You're running stuff that isn't taking up a whole lot of RAM, and you can do all of the other ancillary things that you need to do as far as checking email, going to social media, watching videos, streaming music and videos, etc. So you all have all that in this nice, cheap package. And I think that's really what Apple is aiming at, is that market with this MacBook Neo. And I think that it could, over the next couple of years, be very, very disruptive and could possibly supplant the Chromebooks. We'll see. It is a little more expensive than some of the Chromebooks. You can just get pennies on the dollar. But Apple, when you talk about like enterprise offerings and what might educational institutions be able to access large numbers of these devices for even better overall prices. It's hard to say, but it does feel like maybe we're at a bit of an inflection point there. So as far as how capable I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be plenty capable for the kinds of things that you're going to need to do as a college student or even an educator. It's small, it's portable, it weighs about the same as the MacBook Air, as a 13-inch MacBook Air. It's a little thicker, but its dimensions are a little smaller other than the thickness. So overall, I think it's going to be a bit more portable than even the 13-inch MacBook Air, which is great. You need something a little smaller, very portable. Looks to have pretty good battery life. It doesn't, Apple uses different metrics, for their, like a video playback or whatever is the metric they use. And I think they're purporting 16 hours versus 18 hours with the contemporary MacBook Airs. That's, that, I don't know, the uncertainty probably crosses over pretty significantly with the MacBook Air. So it looks like the battery life is going to be on par with, most of the other MacBook products. Certainly, it's significantly better than an iPad. And I really think that Apple's really undercutting iPad, even the higher end iPads, with these lower tier, lower cost laptops. And in my opinion, I used to have an iPad. I don't even have an iPad anymore because it's, one of the things I struggled with was I couldn't use that as a daily drive laptop replacement that I could get through, I could use all day. There are a lot of limitations, and the upfront costs are really high. Even if you get a bargain bin iPad, all the accessories that surround it, the keyboard and all of that, are hundreds of dollars. And so you're really paying a premium to get in to a device that you can touch that has a relatively poor battery life compared to its laptop counterparts. So I think as far as an overall educational tool, I'm not completely sold on iPads or tablets in general. But that's just my opinion. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think they're going to kind of undercut their iPads. And if I was making that decision between an iPad and perhaps this MacBook Neo, the decision would be pretty clear for me, MacBook Neo. And with education, if you are involved in the education system, you can apply and get the educator/student discount. So you're looking at basically $500. You're looking at about $500 to get in to the game with this MacBook Neo. It's using the A18 Pro, a bend version of the A18 Pro. A18 Pro was a chip that ran the iPhone 16s. I think it's fine. It looks like it is roughly comparable to the M1, M2 chips from a few years ago. And when the M1 laptops came out, 4 or 5 years ago now, something like that. It just completely revolutionized the market. Still, a lot of people are using the M1 MacBook Airs. My wife has an M1 MacBook Air. She's had for several years, still using it, still working just fine for the kinds of things that she does. And I think there are a lot of people that still have the old school M1 MacBooks. And even in contemporary times, they are plenty capable for most of what you want to use a small laptop for. And so I think the A18 is going to be fine. The RAM is maybe a bit limiting. That's probably the most limiting factor in at least in 2026, particularly if you are going to be involved in a lot of coding, running simulations, things like that. But I think if you are a student or you're a faculty in one of these more, I don't want to say, more technical fields where you're going to be running codes and simulations and things like that, this won't even be a consideration for you. But for a majority of people who they're not going to be pushing the requirements to the extreme out, I think they'll be fine. 8 gigabytes, you might not be able to have 100 Chrome tabs open, or you probably can, and then the machine will go into memory swap and it might slow down a little bit. But again, I think for the most part, most people will be fine with 8 gigabytes. As more and more AI kinds of things happen, you may run into some limitations, but people are still going to be able to pull up ChatGPT and use it to cheat on their exam, or to assist them with getting through their educational pipelines just fine. So I don't know. I think for the majority of people, this is going to work, and it will be relevant for the next few years. I think, and it wouldn't surprise me if over the next year or two they update it with additional RAM. But we shall see what happens there. Personally, do I find this to be a compelling device? Actually, I do. And let me tell you why. So my primary setup for the last, I think, 3 years now has been an M2 MacBook. So this is my M2 MacBook. It's a 15-inch MacBook. Look at this D-brand skin. Woohoo! Right, there you guys go. Give D-brand some a free plug there. Not sponsored, but I love their products. And so I've been using this for the past 3 years or so. It's a beautiful machine. It has been a great machine. It's been reliable. I haven't had any issues with it. It's got 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's 512 of ROM. It's fairly thin, and it's powerful enough to do everything I absolutely need it to do. The problem with this is it's fairly large. It's not thin, and it's not like super heavy, but the overall footprint is really big. And so one of the things that I've been doing over the last year has I'm actually involved in teaching multiple paramedic cohorts, and I'm currently doing an accelerated paramedic class that is primarily off campus from where I normally teach, and I'm spending multiple days a week there now, and so I'm having to bounce back and forth. And this class is happening at a fire department training center, and I find that packing and humping this large laptop around is a bit inconvenient, and I would like to have something a little more portable, and I don't need something powerful. I just need something that I can plug in, and then they have monitors set up. Plug it in. The Neo you can plug it into a monitor. It's not going to give you like 4K output, but I don't need that. I just need to plug it in. I need to get online. I need to access Canvas. I need to access Platinum Planner, which is another learning management system, PowerPoint, and some drawing applications that will work just fine on the MacBook Neo. And the footprint will be a lot smaller. I can just throw it in my day bag. I don't have to worry about bringing power. I can power it up. I can be confident that I can run it all day long with no problems. And then I can leave this big boy in my office or at home, and that it still remains my my primary go-to device for my everyday tasks. And then I have this smaller footprint device that is maybe has less overall capability, but is still functional for what I need. And then I can use that as this device that I take with me, popping around to all these other places. And as far as iPads go, again, I think the big thing with the iPad is that the batteries just don't last very long. You gotta buy a keyboard and all that, and And honestly, as far as a touchscreen goes, I actually get a lot more out of a standalone pad. So this is what I currently use in lieu of a touchscreen. This is just a Wacom bamboo pad. You can get these are super cheap. I think you can get this for less than like $30-40 maybe. And you just plug it in, the drivers download, and then I can use this as essentially a whiteboard to put notes up, to draw on things. It integrates into all of your Office applications, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, etc. and it works just fine. And its footprint is incredibly small, and then I can just pack it in my little pouch with that small Neo, or I often just pack it in a larger pouch with my MacBook, my 15-inch MacBook, and it works just fine. So I'm actually kind of excited about this MacBook Neo, and with the educator discount, you're looking at $499 plus some taxes to get into the fee to the game, so to speak. And I think it's a hell of a deal. There are certainly a lot cheaper options out there, but as far as the overall capability, the overall integration within the Apple ecosystem, if you have an iPhone and you have messages and email and things like that are right, the fact that all of the Apple devices tend to work very well together is a pro. And honestly, I think, all that aside, being a great educational machine, I do think that, Apple's plan is probably not as benevolent as the side effects are. I think that this is really being, obviously what it's being presented as is different than I think underlying all that. I think this really is a gateway device, and it's going to be a gateway device for a lot of people where, that's the first maybe computer that they're going to get when they go into middle school and high school. Their family are going to looking at these options, and everybody knows Apple. They've got this legacy, this brand name appeal, and they're going to look, oh, I can get it for, and then, a year or two down the line, you're going to have a lot of like discounted offerings through Apple or through Amazon and Best Buy. And so the prices are going to come down, and people are going to look at that and they'll be like, $300-400. I can get this computer that has an Apple logo on it, has some cool colors, it's going to function. I'm going to get that, and that'll be the first computer that a lot of these kiddos have, and it's going to kind of get them hooked into that Apple ecosystem and into that walled garden. As many of you know, once Apple gets its hooks into you, it can be difficult to transition out of the walled garden, so to speak, because it holds your hand and it does so much for you that you just kind of get hooked, and you're just like, well, everything works. I don't want to leave for something else and disrupt all of my, everything communicating well and my messages and all that. And so it's going to be a good gateway drug for Apple. But be that as it may, I do think that it's going to be popular and potentially disruptive. All right, those are my thoughts on the MacBook Neo. See you guys later. Take care.